This booger's in everything. I went inside the garage to get something, and the dog jumped in here and ripped up this thing and pulled down his glove box. I don't know how the hell this dog does that. See that wet stain by the wheel? It corresponds to there. Have you been adding brake fluid? As if not, you got a whole other problem in the back here too. So, everything in my life right now has been pretty chaotic. I haven't made videos. I'm really sorry. That being said, I'm also sick right now. Getting over it though. And this is the new garage, basically pretty much filled. It's not organized still, but I was able to do some tires back there. You can see the tire machine. I was able to do a few things. I got a few doggies bothering me on a regular basis. And I still have to think about what I want to do. I may want to sell a lathe I have back there, a South Bend lathe that I never got going, all the way in that corner. And in fact, you can see the wheels right there. And somebody offered me $3,500 for it. And, that was 4 years ago when I bought it. He says, you don't know what you have there and everything. So it's a pretty rare thing. It makes threads and all this and that. And I thought I could use it. I'm really not. Like, by losing 2 feet in my garage, I'm a little bit hampered here. So I also have all this machinist stuff that I bought. And, that being said, all this machinist stuff is not really serving me by having it if I'm not going to have the lathe. So I'm probably going to sell all this. I shoved it all into this toolbox, and I got buckets and other stuff, of the stuff that I bought off the old guy that had all the stuff. So, that being said, other than that, I've been working on a few things here and there, but I usually get my friends to come and, help me fix their own cars, because I can't do it by myself. Some of the big jobs, obviously, they're not doing or whatever. And this is one of them. Oh, by the way, did you see that 350 Chevy sitting there on the floor? Yeah. That's going into that 53 Ford. And today I just started working on it. I just had it brought here yesterday. And just disassembling things to make it easier to pull the motor out. It looks a lot tighter than it seems. I just feel like I think it's sacrilegious a little bit. I didn't care what the guy wanted to put in, because I like Chevy in the sense of easiness and cheapness, the plentiful trannies and all this stuff, but I think Ford knows what they're doing when they start making new stuff, and they make it kind of fit the old stuff, but everybody was saying you could put either or, and I left it up to the guy, so that's what he did. Tranny and flywheel and not tranny and I can't speak because still out of it. Tranny and bell housing are over there. Got all this other stuff off, and don't know if I'll have it out today, but definitely tomorrow. There's no tranny on it, so the problem is this hood. I kind of need a hand getting that off. Unless the more I take off, the more I'll just use the cherry picker. So that's it. That's what's going on with me, and try to make a little bit of a video, particularly with the the mocking up part, because there's not a lot of information. There are people who say, yeah, you can put whatever motor you want, whatever training you want. And I'm like, oh, this is good. And I realize a lot of people just talk, and a lot of guys, they don't sell secrets. I don't give a fuck. You still have to do the work. If you're gonna copy everything I do, still got to do the work, and you get a pat in the back for that. I know I did it first or whoever, but the point is a lot of people have done this job, and there's not a lot of information. And I think it's a Ford guy thing. They don't like to give up information for a lot of things. You know what? You can't keep licking the antifreeze. You really can't. Goodbye. He's deaf. So goodbye. I gotta nudge him. He doesn't hear. Anyway, this is my first automotive video in a while, me actually doing something. So I've done a lot of work to this car in the sense that I've converted to disc brakes, And I did his oil pump last year. I believe I made a video on it. I'm not sure, but it still had no oil pressure, and it's amazing that the thing lasted as long as it did. And it probably would have lasted, but the guy didn't look at his damn temperature gauge. He overheated the bitch out of it, and it's basically no antifreeze in it. I don't know where it leaked out from. Whether it was I didn't notice an expansion plug. There was some antifreeze underneath, but I gotta have a talk with him. He's gotta, he can't do that to the new engine because I can't be his only mechanic, for that stuff. But in any case, I hope to have all the stuff that's like a clearance issue right now, getting it out of the engine bay, a problem, So once I get that done, then this thing will be ready to be pulled. Not really the exciting part, but almost there. It's amazing how much more room you got than you think. Usually it's the other way around. Not quite. Anyway, this hood is so much play. Not that I want to jack it up on it, but still ain't hitting it. Hey, now it's clear. That's going to come straight out. Of course, I wanted to push the car back, but without having somebody to hold this for me, well, you also see I have the car on the jacks because the car has little tiny wheels in the front, so it's very hard to I can't get the cherry pick underneath, so I can't exactly pull it out. I gotta pull the engine first, and then push the car out. Have you journeyed into the hole? Oh, look, I can see that the engine had air conditioning. Ah. Hey, Lester. Listen, there's a problem with this engine. I've had it here sitting on the dolly until I can finally, get to this car and pull out the engine. And I left everything on the car. I didn't even look at this engine, only when I put it in here. And I didn't have time for it, and I didn't want to even bother because I just didn't want to disturb anything. I don't want to take apart things and have dust and everything go in. So right here, motor spins, and then it hits pretty hard right there. I don't hear it hitting like a rod, but it just really stops. And, that's not really what I paid for. I that's where you said the motor turned over. That's one. Number two, the motor don't have 60,000 miles. And the reason for that is right there, the number 010. 010 is a 68 to 79, or maybe even 58 to 79 Chevy motor, and then they bolted the center bolt valve covers. Because then afterwards, I'm like, how can that be? It would be a driver's side dipstick. And I'm like, oh, fuck, driver's side dipstick. I mean, it's something I really should have known. But, I mean, I don't know if I'm going to get this motor to turn over. I had only a half a can left of PB Blaster. I put it in all the cylinders. I let it sit overnight. But I'm disappointed. So any input I appreciate. If you want to come look at it, please do so. But if it's not the one-piece rear main seal block, then it's not the advantage of the one-piece rear main seal. It's not a roller motor. It's not the tighter tolerances. It's not the roller chain. It's probably one of the plastic chains in there, unless somebody did it. But I thought I was buying a 60,000 mile motor. And, just by the way, the guy who worked on these exhaust manifolds, whoever touched this car, it was absolute fucking garbage work. And the whole AC system to get that in, they hacked it off to make it work with this engine or something. So they hacked up the power steering pump. And when I spin this, it's like when I do spin it, when I'm looking at the, if I can hold the phone straight, maybe it's just me, but I thought it looked wobbly, the balancer. So like, I somehow think they, you know, put the, because like it was funny because there was a certain amount of spacing that I thought was funny, and I'm like, how did they do that? And I'm wondering if this is actually not all the way in. I didn't go crazy tightening that all the way, although in the beginning I gave it a little extra turn. It felt weird, like it wasn't all the way tight, but I guess it is. I somehow remember, I thought this would stick out a little less, so it's, I don't know. The whole thing was weird. Oh, so any input, I appreciate it. All right, got my chain hoist going, and I used it to pull that over there and separate the tranny. Got it up right here. Got my engine stand assembled. Found 4 bolts that should work, and 1 questionable bolt, but it's long enough. And I'm gonna try to figure out if it's really seized or not. Might have to pull the pan just to be sure, so I'm not playing games. Obviously, TBI manifold, and this worked somehow. I just put it diagonally only on 2 bolts, so I'm a little leery, but you know, I should get it up in time and on this, hopefully in enough time. But I'm gonna put this on first, so I just slide it in. Yeah, so this motor was a 4-speed motor, and he just left the bushing in, and that's why it was actually kind of stuck. And for some reason, you know, so I don't know if that's the training that was done after or what. And that converter is a diesel converter because it has six converter pads. Let me just make sure. Yeah, you can see this. There's thread holes in the ones that aren't being used. And so that was a diesel transmission on top of everything. And, you know, it's frustrating. It's frustrating. Couldn't have been that good for the tranny, but it looks to be that it just made it, because this actually is below the surface there, so the converter shouldn't go past that. You know, the flat part, the flat part is raised on the outer flat part is raised, so it can only touch this. So I don't know, that's probably in all the way, and that's just it. And I kind of always remember you had to pull one out to do the other. I guess it depends on the year and whatever they were using it for, so who knows. Not good, not right. It's not, just a whole bunch of, hey, this isn't right, and this isn't right, and this isn't right, Ugh. All right, for all this, heavy, thick sludge, and it obviously looks like a passenger car pan on this. It don't look like no truck pan anyway. So that's one thing. I just used this oil filter cutter, and don't need this. Fuck you. I'm gonna open that. The oil looks very, very clean, I want to say. What am I? Little bubbles. Okay. Honestly, it looks like what's good about it's kind of like it hasn't been changed in a while. It looks like, but that oil looks pretty damn clean. So, and if there's any dirt, there's usually here. But I got to cut this open with a razor and whatnot. All right, so I cut that, took it apart, took out a section because you don't really need much. And the good news is there's no chunks in here, and there's no glitter. There's obviously, sludgy stuff, Let's take a closer look. Yeah, that's not metal. As far as I can tell, unless the fucking thing is, it doesn't. I don't know why I can't take a fucking video anymore. I got this pretty zoomed, and it's sludgy because that's what happened. It just keeps putting sludge in all of the grooves here. But I'm not seeing metal. It would instantly reflect. It's like sludgy, grimy stuff. You know, that's what you do. You take apart the filter and you check it, and you take out a section and see how it looks. So far, so good. You know, I mean, the amount of shit on here, I can't tell where the ass begins and where the tits begin, and where the ass end, I should say, because it's really messy here. I'm not quite sure. Yeah, somebody modified it. This engine had headers on it, so they actually grinded the motor mounts out to accept headers. You know, and like I said, they had put these heads on, but it's possible somebody had these heads, and I said the only thing they did that sloppy silicone job right here, and they put this intake from the fuel injected motor and just slapped it together. They looked at it like, oh yeah, this is ready to go. You know, meanwhile it wasn't even the right year. Dipstick's on the wrong side for the year of the truck that it was. But you know, always something. As I mentioned, no rear main, no one-piece rear main seal. That's because it is an 010. So Mike, I just want to show you, the PB Blaster helped a little bit because I was going back and forth, and just using like a little reference point, like a little dot. I noticed that when I went back and forth, it got a little closer. Okay, it had a long way to go, but I was like, there's something to this. So I took that little red can up there and I filled it with synthetic oil, and I put it in all the things, and sure enough, I got it free. I'm zoomed in. So now here's the other thing. Without taking the motor apart, I get a good idea of how much play is in the timing chain. Because I was thinking that this motor is like, original mileage and they just slapped it together. And I'm now thinking it might have actually been rebuilt of all things. Number one, the motor mounts, both, have this. That's not factory. The guy hacked them out. And you know what that's for? Right here? It's for headers. So they had headers coming out of this motor originally. Okay? Whether they use this engine, these heads on this engine or not during that time, like it's very possible, like I was telling you, like an upgrade for these engines, the old engines, was to put these centerbolt valve covers on. So when this guy got a hold of this motor, it was supposedly a good motor, just put your manifold on and put the fuel injection system on. So that's what was done last to it. But, other than that, it was not really, the guy who sold to me, he said it ran good. He saw it ran. Now, months earlier, but they junked the truck because it was, he knew the family owned the truck. And he knew it ran. He goes, man, I think it ran great. And I'm wondering, if this thing had headers, it probably had some kind of performance work done to it, meaning a performance camshaft, And the thing is that, when you move this this crankshaft back and forth, hang on, let me put this back on. Like, I get a feel of the play in the timing chain, and there's almost nothing. And that makes me feel like there's a double roller chain in there, and it was done, because no Chevy chain is, good like that. I mean, it's tight. I mean, really tight. And there's no oil leaking, really. I know this looks like a mess here, but they also used it as a plow truck. So this could be a lot of the road debris that happened to go onto it. Now, I had taken off this bolt, and I saw that there was oil coming through there. So the only trick is, on some engines like this, when you pull the harmonic balancer, you put a little bit of silicone on the inside, because it tends to leak through the press seal, right where the thing is. So that's why it may be a little tiny, but that it's ultimately not leaking because this bolt is on, you know. So, but it was a little wet in there, but nothing crazy. That being said, with the fact, knowing that this car at some point, this engine had headers attached to it, and knowing that now it's an older block, you might actually have a push rod in here. The fuel injection was able to run it because the guy said it was running so good, so it can't be too hot of a cam because you don't want this super duper lopey cam, but you wouldn't probably care about that in your car, you know. What do you call it? So I'm thinking this is kind of like a little hop-up performance engine here, you know. I've totally switched on this now that I got it going. That being said, I think this is a passenger pan already, but it's really been walloped. I don't think by any means, you know, normally. I think it's because the motor was moved from one place to another before this guy got it, and it was always laid down on its pan, and it might have been laid rough at one point, but you should put a new pan. It's not even worth me cleaning all this when you can buy a pan for probably $39, just a regular stock pan. That's all you need, because we may still have to modify it anyway. So me just having it off, and I'm not 100% sure on that. So me having it off is probably a good thing, you know, or just having it on by 4 bolts, and then I can actually check a few things. Number one, I can tell if it's a double roller timing chain, you know, in there. Just take off the timing chain at that point and do it. You could do the rear main seal at that point and just do it, because you got to drop the pan in order to do the rear main seal. But like I said, it's really not leaking back there. So what does that mean? I mean, it sounds like somebody might have rebuilt it, you know, because it's you know, I'm not really seeing anything there. You got the edge of the pan there, but there would be like a bunch of wet stuff there. I'm just not seeing that. And there was a bushing. I don't know. Can't really tell. But this was actually right there. That small, there's a bushing in there that converts it to a smaller hole. And that's like for a 4-speed. So they even had this thing under a 4-speed. So like, oh, Jesus. Fuck you. I have a special drain pan. I think I have it at my house because I had it delivered just for this reason. It meant to go over a engine hoist. Anyway, this is actually looking a lot better than I thought. Now, this was really stuck on. And you see, the other thing I noticed, this is something that, again, somebody got, and this was for the year truck that it was. But this is not the right tranny even for that engine. Because this is, you see this with 6 bolts? It's not supposed to be that. It's only supposed to be 3. Okay, the 6 bolts is for a diesel converter, for a diesel engine. So that means even the shift points on this are going to be very low. And I'm not saying that we have to rebuild a tranny or whatever like that, but you know, you can't really adjust the shift on a Turbo 400. You can't really much either on a Turbo 350. You can do a lot more with the well, you could do definitely more with a Turbo 350, and you can do what you got to do with the 700 R4. And that's it. I'm kind of laying like that, because if this is a performance engine and it's getting worse mileage on the highway, you may want to have that overdrive gear, you know, and then you can actually like cruise. I mean, move, you know. That being said, you might get $400 or $500 just for the fucking tranny, for the guy who wants it, you know. And it's this blue color, which I believe there's a rebuilder who uses the blue paint, you know. So, that being said, I can't tell. It's because it's so fucking clogged, but they screw people, little tranny guys, anyway, you know. But like, it's like for a diesel, but if it's a true diesel, the casing, it's supposed to have threaded bolt holes here, and I'm not sure it does. It just has like sheet metal screws for the cover. So they kind of have a mishmash stuff here with this tranny. I don't know what to expect. Now, I actually have some performance converters that would be really good for this. I got like at least 2 of them. and I would be willing to try them out, and that would be pretty cool to see what it can do. But I don't want it to be too high, but I don't know. The guy couldn't tell me, but it's not. He said nothing too crazy, so you're hoping like 2,000, 2,500 RPM. That being said, though, you'd be still revving high on the highway. If you got the overdrive, then you're a little better shape. But I don't know what stall speed this car would need. I don't know. That's the problem when you buy a motor that's unknown. But I have a hard time believing that somebody didn't do something to this engine. So that's my story for today. More for tomorrow, probably. I'm no engineer, but I'm pretty darn smart. These are the truck mounts because they came with the truck things, but usually you could put the rubber mounts. Really not a big difference. I think it makes the whole center line go down. I had to go that route before the tranny goes in. But like I'm gonna just paint around here and then drill, and then I can definitely build up metal here. I can do something here to make that work. And it was funny when I measured the lip at the edge of the cross member right here, right to the edge of the block, and both sides I got exactly 31.5. And this thing looks like it's gonna take a tranny no problem. And I got a nice narrow tranny now because we got an overdrive 204R, and a lot of guys, I saw one video where a guy had like his own junkyard and he pulled a motor out of something else to put into one of these, but somebody else had put these mounts. And this is even the reason why I went back this far, is because I was trying to line it up with the front mounts here. And I'm like, oh, wait a minute. That's right. When the water pump comes out, that's going to be rough. So I still haven't, decided on if I'm going to go further. And what they had was something built up even higher than this. So they went up higher and back further. And the guy's like, yeah, there's no way I'm putting an HEI in here. So he said, I guess I'll have to leave the points. So I'd like to put an HEI in here. So that is, something that it's just not easy to get the best of both worlds with everything. Also, they had ram horn manifolds that went right straight down here. I don't see why you can't put the conventional rear exit ones. And I don't have the conventional ones. I got ones from a 1999, so they both kind of angle back instead of one angling back here and one kind of going like a straight down dump, but 3/4 dump. So a 3/4 dump would be like under cylinder number 5, which looks fine for this too. But you got to figure the angle with that linkage going there. And this looks like it's completely missing the bottom of the motor, the linkage is. So quite impressed with where I laid it down. I just don't know. Don't ask me. I had this camera. I was just trying to see if it was level, but this guy has small tires on this car, and I had to jack up the car in order to do it. The car's kind of jacked up evenly, but it's hard to say. Well, no, it's definitely not, because that side's up higher. So I was kind of being thrown off there, and I was still, I'm still thinking I got the motor sitting in relation to the car pretty well. I'm going to do more measurements, of course, but this would be very interesting to do it on this try. Get the HEI in, get an overdrive tranny in, and not be too bad with the pulleys. It's tight, but I got to look. We almost bought a 4-core, but he was like, I ain't gonna pay that much, So we got a 3-core, which is probably fine. But what do you call it? Gotta find a level. In any case, this is a truck pulley system, and I don't know why the alternator would be any different unless it was a certain way. So I just got to compare pulleys from truck to car. There may be no difference, and it looks like it's going to work no matter what, because this radiator kind of sits inside this groove here, and Did I leave it underneath? Yes, I did. Man, is it cold. So, it looks like to the balancer I got like 7 inches, you know. So it's a little worrisome, but I don't think the radiator is much more than 2 inches wide, and this is 3 inches wide. So I guess the biggest thing would be the fan. Might have to run an electric fan. I mean, the good thing about that, we could put it on this side, because there's actually room on this side of the radiator, which, you know, if you upgrade to AC, it'll get a little tighter, but it still looks doable no matter what, you know, because on this side we have, up until that point, and I don't know how much this rod is getting in the way, but just say if I gave the rod some room, even, you're talking, you know, 3 inches. 3 inches is, these slimline fans, they're like 1.5 inches, and the condensers maybe 1 inch, and then you got, you know, air gaps and stuff, not more than 1/4 inch between each one, so it's pretty much perfect, and there was room to spare. So I'm thinking this is a good spot. So I'm just going to make sure that it's not like that or like that. I don't think so, because it's flat on the chassis the way it's supposed to be. I put a straight edge along here. Like I said, I'm no engineer, but I do different things. So I'm assuming that they have this in the exact same place on both sides. And it just comes on this side of the bolt here. And it just comes on this side of the bolt here. These holes might be slightly different place, you know, but it looks like it just misses it, because this is a stud, because you're supposed to put the Chevy bolt this way on this side, mainly because if you put the bolt the other way and you have a mechanical pump, which I think there might be room in here for, you're gonna have a problem with that, putting that bolt in. You know, people have done it, and if you got to change the motor mount again for whatever reason, you got to pull off the fuel pump then to do it. So we're gonna do it like the factory did. Like I said, it may be a little high in the back, but I can't really adjust it right now. And I don't think that matters for what I'm doing. I think it'll just make the tranny fit better. So it's actually looking very doable, but still tighter than I expected. So this is a lot harder than it seems. I knew something was off here because the chassis kind of rolls down. It's not completely flat. So I put a washer there. When I tighten it, it'll bend a little bit. It'll have to do. It ain't going nowhere. And it's the motor mount, so you put a new Chevy mount and you bend it too, you know. I put those bolt blocking things in, so the studs stay up, they don't fall out. And then I'm gonna bolt this all in. My measurements from here to the edge there are just off by 1/8 of an inch. Hi, how you doing? You must hope, right? I get it. Anyway, what we got here is, it doesn't, you know, it really doesn't look so bad, you know. It's mostly flat. And I'm going to bolt down the bottom 2 bolts here. Like I said, bend the inside one there. The other one is pretty flat, I believe. You know, inside ones. And once it gets bolted down, and what do you call it? Once it gets bolted down, I'll lift the engine out, and then I'll fix the 3rd bolt, because it's a little funny angle here, and I got to make a little wedge. And every time I kept drilling the hole, I didn't think I was right, so I was like, you know what, I'm just gonna put it in, bolt it in, and it'll be where it's gonna be, where it needs to be. And then I don't see a problem. I don't see a problem here, really. So I gotta get out the Z-bar somehow. I'm not quite sure how it comes out, but it's all fucking... I hope I don't have to take out the steering box to do it, because that would suck. But I don't feel like cutting it out either, because it's probably worth something to someone. Don't know. But I don't even... It's probably not in the way, but it's funny how it's like very close to the original Chevy one, you know. Something could be made, I guess, but I mean, I don't want to say very close, but I don't know where the bolt is. It's up here somewhere. Yeah, it comes out like right here. So it's kind of close, just not perfect. But it seems as though the back of the engine wants to go up to be more level. Not sure if level is normal. I believe it goes down, but where the intake is, the carburetor stays more level. So it is what it is. We were anticipating modifying the pan. I got a new pan. Not 100% sure what happens when I turn the wheel just yet. So it may be best just to section off, you know, an inch in this, you know, in this area here. So I'll see. Depends. I'm not sure where the pickup is. You know, it's just something to do when it's on the stand. Like I said, not 100% sure, but it would need to be at least 3 inches. And then you got this factor here of this guy poking into here. So that's another thing, you know, like the Chevy 2-pan. Sorry, the Chevy 2-pan was the one that had the front section out. In order to do that, you got to go way back like the guy did, you know, or further back. And I don't think he was worried about a pan, but it didn't seem like it was an issue. So it may not be an issue here either. I gather because the suspension is hanging, the tie rods are you know, down, but obviously where it mounts, it's not really an issue. So not quite sure. Never had this experience. Never did this kind of thing. So well, I can't say I never did it, but it's seemingly not really an issue. But I'm curious to see how it fits with the training. I don't think it's going to be an issue. The worst case scenario, I do have to dip it, and then the pan has to be sectioned for sure. But we shall see. You know, I'm not 100% sure about anything right now, but I'm cold. I can tell you that much, and it has an effect on me. All right, so this washer, I think, did justice on both sides. I tightened a little harder on this side. You can tell it's actually curved slightly more. This is also it moved pretty easy. I probably tightened it. Not that I'm more to a snap of bolts, but I made it very tight. So the only thing I just don't know is if the motor mounts are going to snag and it's going to yank up on this end. But no matter what, it still should be in the general vicinity where it needs to be when I pull this out. So let's see what happens. So I just pulled out both bolts, but look, all the way in, all the way out. No fighting. Even a stock car is not like that. So hopefully this is as good as it's going to be. And let's see. Right now it's resting on that arm. Now, like I said, I don't know if it starts to pull it up from the back, if it kind of fucks it up in the front there. I guess it should. I kind of expect it to bind a little. That came right up. Now, hanging up a little bit here, but that's nothing. That's nothing unnormal right there. So we're in good shape. I was debating whether or not I had to put that angled wedge, but after these two were bolted, I think it kind of had springiness going up. I'm not sure. I can't really tell from this side if I overdid it. Actually, it looks kind of just fine. I'm not seeing this side of the metal flex down, being overextended or anything like that. You know, I figured it was right because it was actually sitting flat, but at the very end here, I was able to push down, and there wasn't many threads left. But when I tightened it, there was plenty of threads, so it could have just the length of the bolt. I just misjudged, but I put an angled, you know, like a angled round piece of metal right there, and on the other side as well. So I went with the opposite angle and put it a longer bolt straight through, and it came out basically the same amount. So that is right on the money. This one is not, because when I drilled the hole, I was definitely off. So not a big deal, you know. So I'll figure that out. All right, after burning my corneas without a mask on, I tack welded it. It only needs that one side there. It ain't going nowhere, just so it doesn't rotate. Not that it would, but yeah, my welds are, you know, but it's very solid. The bolt is the thing that's really holding it, and it's actually easier to unbolt these than on our GM car, because that's always a pain in the ass. So okay, let's see what happens. Next step coming up soon, and hopefully I don't have any problems with clearances. I really never even measured the water pump. I just did it by eye, and it's not much further forward than the other engine that I saw online, but it's really just to get an HEI in there. So the absolute worst case scenario is that you have to use a short water pump, which is a bit of a pain, you know, but this can't be super difficult for me to do, you know, in the middle of the winter with this kind of cold and this kind of pressure I have right now. I have so much stuff to do, and I promised I'd do this. So yeah, so now I can technically start prepping this engine, and I can, you know, when I'm ready to bolt it in again, it'll be somewhat ready to go, but the tranny will be bolted to it, and I'll figure out the training when that happens. So I got to get this guy back down on the engine stand, get this car outside, and live another day, you know, to do something else. So I got to fix another car tomorrow. Don't know if I'll get back to this, but we'll see. So this is my intake manifold that I said I had for you, and it is a center bolt valve cover one because of the inside bolts, but this is made for a quadrajet. You really need an aftermarket one because you have an aftermarket carburetor, and I just remembered, because this is way over 5 years that I have this, or approximately 5 years. It's December of 2019. So yeah, I realized now that I wanted to keep the stock linkage and everything. I didn't want to have any issues with anything going from a 70s car to a to center bolt valve covers, because I was contemplating putting on center bolt valve just like this engine has. You know, I was contemplating putting this on my old engine. I had the same 010 block, and that's what I was going to do. But your aftermarket carburetor is not going to work with this now that I realize it. I thought I had a Performer, and it's been so long I just forgot. And this thing is awfully fucking corroded. I guess I got it cheaper, and I was just going to clean it, but this is pretty hard, you know. So I think you should buy an intake manifold that is nice. Alrighty. 4 of 99, lower, and under 4 of 99, you can see 0.010. So the crankshaft was cut 10 under in 1999. I'm looking at this bearing, and I know it looks weird and discolored, but that's actually the babbitt that's coming off, which is normal, but it's not even fully off. Like it's such low mileage that it's kind of caught in between right now what we're looking at. So I think that's pretty good. When you look at the timing chain, I have it taunt on one side and not on the other. You see that? It looks like a lot, but when you go back and forth on the, see that little movement? I don't even think that's 1 degree, you know. So it's a double roller chain. It's just not going bad anytime soon, you know. So it's going to stay within a reason, or you know, a reasonable reason, I think, you know. So it's up to you, but probably more money for this timing chain locally, but it really, it didn't seem like much play at all. So just because you know, sometimes you have so much play and you're like, oh my God, it's horrible, you know, but you know, collectively, when you even it out, it's really not so much. And in the end, like I said, when you go back and forth, it's this torsional up and down here that really counts, and it's not a lot. It really isn't. In the grand scheme of things, if you had a plastic original gear and it was this much play with a conventional chain, I'd say yes, do it. But I just don't see this being an issue anytime soon. Not for 40, 50,000 miles, because it probably has 50, 60,000 miles on it now, and it's probably not going to be a problem for 100,000. So I really don't think it's going to be a problem. This is the cylinder that was hung up. You can't see a ton, but you can see all that rust on the edge. And then if you look here, there's rust coming on the lip of the valve seat. Like I said, I could tell it was coming from the front. I didn't know if it was the left or the right one. Obviously, it's the passenger side now. And when I go in here, you can see all the brown on the inside is normal. The rust on the cylinder wall, though, that's where it was hung up. Like I said, I'm not really worried about the rings. I'm not worried about that. But I just started thinking, I'm like, maybe they blew a fucking head gasket. I'm fucked all the way around with this fucking thing. And I wonder if it's just cheap insurance to do the head gaskets, even though it's quite a bit amount more of work. It might be the right thing to do and to clean out that rust and be sure that it's not not the head gaskets, because there's not much reason for it to get into one cylinder. And the end cylinder, like if they left it out in the rain for a day and water got in, you would think that the middle ones would be the ones that got, you know, rusty. But it's only the one in the front here. And a lot of times these Chevys, they blow on the left front for whatever the passenger side front for whatever reason. This engine's upside down right now. But just something I'm thinking about. Even though I painted it already and all that stuff, but I'm not even talking about sending it to the machine shop really. But it depends what I find. You know, you could do checks with, you know, visual checks with cracks, and I'm not so worried about that. But I'd like to see the condition of the head gasket at this point. Do that actually is I put this new heavy duty thing on there. The original one, like I said, was a plastic little sleeve on there that locks in. And you can see they try to do everything right when they rebuilt it. They even welded the screen on, which is a normal thing. But I had some oil drip out of it, and it was a funny color. It's not really black, and it's almost like gray. And I checked the oil filter. There was no debris in the oil filter. That was one of the first things I did. But, you know, you don't always get, water in the oil. A lot of this is from something else, but I really started thinking that maybe something's weird going on here with this, and I should look into it further. Always something, you know. The timing cover and the balancer is on. But now I'm thinking about pulling the heads. I really am. Lots of muck in there. These are all kind of normal. I honestly think this was the right thing to do. The good news is it does not look like the head gasket's blown. All this stuff probably would have burned out, I think. Jesus. That's a lot of crap. Always fun to do this. I mean, I guess water could have got in there, and that's just it. You know, it just is one of those things that happens when something sits. You know, so I'm not seeing cross, you know, that you would see like a big gouge from the water jacket, a big crack, or a trail going in there. So I think this was the right thing to do. The good news is we only have to buy one head gasket. I don't need to take off that other head. I don't think it pays even, unless you really wanted to. But This is all me spraying shit inside there to break up gum. I was really thinking this motor was rebuilt, and I'm hoping that it was, but these kind of look like factory pistons, you know, unless you have to look really careful and clean them off and look for, oh yeah, look at that. It says .030. This thing was bored out 30 over, so that's good. This is pretty bad. So in a certain sense, I'm glad I got to physically remove this rust in the end. I mean, I don't know if I'll get it all, but now I can really concentrate on cleaning that. But I believe the other side was not like this at all. I tried to look in there with the light. I didn't get nearly the rust that I got out of any other cylinder, and it was moving. So like if you have two cylinders not moving, chances are it wouldn't have moved at all, you know. But being that it moved like 3/4 of the way until it hit a spot, that's what I did. I kept putting stuff in here, and I kept working it back and forth to keep chewing away at the rust. The ring kind of cuts the rust. But, you know, hopefully this is no kind of permanent damage. You know, they are new pistons, so chances are they're, you know, even if it kind of sort of added miles to everything, it's not that bad, you know. But these were Felpro gaskets, the blue gaskets, and it really looks like it totally withstood whatever was here, and this was all ancillary what happened. You know, there would be a crack in the gasket. So check on the inside here. I mean, it's super clean. You know, you see that little, that's probably not nothing that just dripped in after we pulled it off kind of thing. I'm not really seeing any issue here though. That's like really good. So, and it was bored 30 over. See the .030. So that's all good stuff. So I'll just get one head gasket. Very happy. Came out very good. I'm not 100% sure how that rust got in there, you know, but pretty clean now. And the surface is very, very flat. In fact, I know it looks all bumpy here. The head doesn't sit here, but this is where the original numbers were, the car that it came in. But because they milled it so much, they basically erased it. So you know that they milled it a lot. Same thing with the head surface. It's very flat, all things considered. You could just tell by looking at it that it's definitely been rebuilt and whatnot, you know. So yeah, there's going to be some dirt on the seats. It may run a little funny for the first, 2 minutes, and it'll start to burn all that stuff off, and it'll be pretty good. And like I said, it was rebuilt. I didn't show you, like I said, other videos, but it was rebuilt in 1999 because that's what the bearings say. And those were 10 under. So if the mains were 10 under, the rods were at least 10 under. So it really went through. I mean, the only thing is it says HO in Mexico, which usually these older crankshafts say 442 on them. So it makes me feel like this might have been a GM rebuilt block, deliberately made, whether or not the guy who installed it decided to put these heads on to make it fit for the application, because maybe it was more money for the newer block, or they were out of them or something like that. But this looks like a GM rebuild to me, because number one, like I said, they just toss away the crankshaft. They put a brand new crankshaft in, probably already cut 10 under, unless it was just that they used the crankshaft that was made in Mexico. I was trying to look online that all the Mexico stuff was off the shelf of the dealer, basically. So basically, if they rebuilt it, rebuilt a motor, or if it was a new motor, that's what they used. They used made in Mexico parts, so you kind of knew that it was already from the dealer, kind of thing, you know. So looking pretty clean. I got to get this was a sensor that was in here, but that goes to an antifreeze jacket, so I gotta put a plug in there. Like the other side has a plug in it, but otherwise came out very good, all things considered. And like I said, I don't really feel I have to remove that other side. I really feel that this, you know, the only rusty one was this one. And if the head gasket was blown, you would think that's how they got rust, you know. But no matter which cylinder I went in with a different light source here. Hang on a second. I can assure you I did this. And you can see how the threads all look relatively clean. It didn't have like all that gook like the other one had. It's not 100% clear. And yeah, there's some rustiness. But I was more concerned about the rust that was on the lip of the valves, you know. And it just looks like dirt, you know, carbon. I'm just not seeing rust from within. It's only rust externally, which makes a lot more sense. But I'm not getting a ton, and you can't really tell. Like I said, I'm pretty sure none of these were rusty from the top, whereas this one I could tell. So it would be one of these 4 cylinders, and they all look oily, which is what I would consider normal. I don't see any kind of rustiness coming from these. Hang on a second. This motor would have to be turned over. Oh, I can just get it from there. But yeah, where it meets the cylinder wall there, you don't see the rust. You know, you just don't, you know. It just looks oily, which is what you want. You don't want rust on your rings, you want oil on your rings. So I think this was after the fact. Like I said, there was a scare because if antifreeze leaked in the cylinder and it sat, you could see that doing that. And it came here, down on the bottom here. You could tell, like, this is where the concentration was, but it kind of went all over. It kind of takes out a little bit of, you know, the cylinder usually, like, it'll make pit marks. And, you know, there's some, you know, a lot of times the rings, they're relatively new, they'll clean up eventually. And listen, maybe it'll burn a little bit of oil, you know, but I was getting compression out of it, so I can clean that up more, you know. But, you know, if I start going in there with abrasives to clean it up, then you're kind of wearing in the cylinder. But this is what we got right now. Yeah, ultimately, I just wiped it down. It's not that great, you know, to be honest. But I don't really think it's... I've seen worse, you know, put it that way. So I'm not quite sure how the water got in there. It does not appear to be the head gasket. And it really altogether wasn't what we thought it was. You know, it wasn't what I thought it was. But, you know, when people are out to fucking do you harm, you know, it's kind of hard to prevent that from happening. Just not seeing the calamity here. So, barring, you know, a hole in the cylinder, which I somehow doubt. You know, you see a crack or something like that. Like I said, doesn't look the best, but, you know, I think it's going to run, and it's going to do what it's going to do for the most part. I hope it cleans up. I hope it gets better. Don't know what else I can do other than removing the piston and getting a set of piston rings, and then I'm rebuilding the engine practically, you know. So just want to show you that. So I used that thing. It's called a honer. Obviously, it's not the size of the cylinder like a lot of them are, but I just rubbed it on the outsides. Didn't even take much. So a lot of that rust usually ends up being superficial. Yeah, it creates something there, but for the most part, if it's sealing 360 degrees around and there's 2 compression rings and 1 oil ring, you know, it's going to not really get past this, but I still think it's going to clean up very well, you know. So can't get all the way down there. I got pretty close there, but it's not really going to be an issue. Where you want it to seal is at the top of the cylinder when the piston comes up. So You can tell now it's actually pretty darn clean, all things considered. At least I did it with that as opposed to the ring digging into it and, you know, possibly putting wear in the ring. But usually it cuts it up and cleans it up pretty well, all things considered. But I think it's going to be fine. It's unfortunate, but it's unfortunate that it, you know, motor didn't spin over all the way and that was hung up. But I just don't think it's going to be an issue for the long term. I really feel that it's as good as it's going to get, and this engine is better than I thought in other ways. You know, you never know what you're going to get when you buy a used engine, and everybody says it's rebuilt, but not everybody tells the truth, and not everybody knows who actually did the work. But I think somebody tried to do the right job here. I don't know why it ended up in that truck that it, you know, that it did. Not 100% sure about that, but being that it's the HO in Mexico and it is rebuilt, and I just feel that there was a bunch of these motors laying around. They were rebuilding them and putting them back into cars that were newer because it's what they had. And when they warrantied engines, they started running out of them. Like anything, they always are not prepared for that kind of shit, you know. But I got a little worried at the color of the oil that was in the oil pump, but you know, it was empty also, the oil pan. Like, it really didn't have any oil in it. They drained it out. So, you know, when you have a head gasket, usually all the antifreeze will drain out first and then that. But I felt like there was a trace of kind of weirdness there. But the oil, there was oil regularly coming out of this thing. It's all clean now, you know, but there was a lot of clean looking oil. And there was clean oil in the oil filter. And I had a video somewhere where I show it spread out, and there was no metal in there. There was a lot of good with the engine, I thought, you know, to start with. So, like I said, it wasn't what I thought. Like, I thought it was a roller motor, you know, and all that stuff. But apparently, you know, it might have a performance cam in there to make it a little hotter. I don't know, you know, but otherwise, it's as good as it's going to get right now. But I just wanted to do that to be safe, and I think it was the right move. And I really don't feel I have to pull off the other head. So it was replaced. These Velcro gaskets last a long time until you overheat it. If I change it and you overheat it, it may blow it up anyway, you know. So it's like the head gasket's there, it does its job, but if you take the stresses to it, then you have to worry. So I was just worried that somebody totally lied to this guy, or, you know, if this guy lied to me, you know, something was not right. So this car is going to have every single gasket change with this other side head gasket. Like I said, I could technically take it off and do the same thing, but it's more work. It's another it's $35 a head gasket locally. It's cheaper online, but I'd like to get it together. So that's it. All right, taking off the head for good measure on the other side, and it looks fine. Kind of like what I thought, but you know, better to be safe than sorry. And I have a nice fresh gasket. It was done like 1999, I'm assuming, since the bearings were labeled 1999. So it's been on here still for a while, you know. So yeah, that looks dirty in there, but it's that cleans up quick. It's not like it's really translating to a ton of rust anywhere here. So pretty good, I want to say. So. Alrighty, time to put it back together. So, intake manifold is on, you know, obviously this is on, the heads are on, and I went to go put the oil pump on, and unfortunately I had a problem. Inside here, now, it's the same torque as the heads, so I had the torque wrench held to the same thing. This is a grade 5. It looks like a grade 8 bolt, but because there's oil on it, but it's actually only a grade 5 bolt. I bet you it's really not right. It should be grade 8. I just figured it was there, so I'm going to keep using it. But when I torqued it, I heard a crack, and it just kept going like, that didn't sound good. And then I backed it off 5 pounds, and then it torqued tight, and then I went back to the original 5 pounds, and I'm like, it just kept going, and I'm like, I don't know what's going on here. So when I took it all apart, it seems like because they put the wrong bolt, they didn't catch all the threads. It only went so far in the hole. And now that I torqued it properly, I got these cracks. Now, I can't tell if this is all part of it or if it's just part of the casting, because it might be. And I mean, obviously, if the bolt is loose, you're gonna have leaks. But we don't want it to be porous through the whole thing if the whole thing gets cracked. Like, you start a crack and keep going, perhaps. Maybe not in this case, but I got to take this to the machine shop because I tried running a tap and it doesn't go down. Like, it may need to be drilled out more. But if I can get more threads all the way at the bottom and have it tap through, but I wanted him to drill out the cracks and then weld in a stud. That's the only way to save this, because you cannot just change this part of the engine. It goes with the engine. It would be a travesty if this couldn't be done. I mean, a fucking travesty. But it looks doable. So whether you use a Healy coil or something like that, but I'm more concerned about the cracks and what it impacts. And like I said, obviously, if the bolt catches down further, which there doesn't appear to be as many threads, or they just didn't dig them deep, and the shitty Chinese tap I have is just that, and it doesn't really cut down in there. So I'm quite bummed about this, because now this added fucking time. But that is not good. Said I worry about the cracks continuing to crack, although I don't know if it created this. It doesn't look like it's here. It looks like it starts right there and it kind of goes around, but I'm not sure if this is just part of the casting, or like literally if this whole thing is going to pull out when I bolt in the bolt. That's why I just assume drill it out and weld a stud in there on top of drilling it deeper. Fucking mutts. It's like the guy who rebuilt the engine seemed like he did a good job, but the guy who installed it was a fucking monkey. And then I go with the torque wrench because I want to do it right, and I probably shouldn't have tightened it that much. It may have been okay. It may have been cracked already. They had a shitty washer here on top of everything. Like, this was not meant for this. I didn't even realize. It looks like it's a gold bolt, which is the grade 8, but it's, in my camera it looks more silver. So, not good. Hopefully this is not too big of a deal and can be repaired. I'm not happy. Shit happens though. Only to me, but it happens. But the very least I have to do is try to get it threaded down further and put a deeper bolt or a stud. That's the minimum. That way, if you stud it, you're not pressing on those threads. Like, I could put a bunch of Loctite on the threads and everything and send it home, and then I'm just tightening a nut on the top then, instead of constantly, every time not that it's going to be a lot of times, but then you can keep moving it in and out. You're not moving it in and out with the original threads. That's why I just assume weld in a stud. This is horrible. It's fixable. I know it's fixable. I don't think it's the end, but it's not what I wanted to happen. So as you can see, I was able to get what I had in there a little bit deeper, so it made a difference. But on this edge here, it was not lined up, meaning it was hitting the boss. So now I just used a die grinder and I enlarged it. So now when I go in, I'm not 100% sure if that solved it. I may have to hit another end to it, but it looks like I'm cleared. But I don't know how much I can tighten that if I use a wrench. So I bought an ARP stud, and I had to drill out the top threads and then tap the bottom threads, correct them. They were there already. And I got it in all the way, and there's plenty of threads left. It's not ideal, but there was really nothing I can do. The guy said, I can't weld this, and it would have to be brazed if anything, and nobody really wanted to touch it. But I got some advice, and I took it to my friend who does some work, and and he used a very good, what do they call it? Not a drill press, but the table that goes across, and he used it as a drill press. It was very accurate. And we just drilled out the hole, and I actually had to clean it up because it wasn't perfect. And because we kept changing our minds in between. But in the end, I have enough, and I got it down 60 pounds, which that's the minimum. So fuck it, leave it, send it. It ain't coming off. It's definitely tighter than the original one was. And what a fun thing to have to go through. So hopefully this pump lasts. And everything's fine, so that's all I can say. Looking good. I picked this color. It's a Chevy, they call it Chevy Orange Red, and it looks very close to the Ford Flathead Red. But it's looking good. I got to get a bolt for this because it doesn't reach. I got to get like an Allen bolt. So other than that, and then I got to get a bunch of plugs for different things. I think we got to get a heater valve for this. That would be best. Now, I took apart the tranny and I did the front seal, then I did the rear seal, then I did the linkage seal, and I thought something felt funny in the linkage because it was very, very tight. I had to hold that and use the impact gun to get that nut off right here in order to do that seal. See, they call that trans gel, the blue stuff. Anyway, when I opened it up, this piece fell out. It's called a manual valve to rooster comb link, and basically it goes from here in this guy to the rooster comb. So basically when you shift, this manual valve goes like this, which gives fluid pressure to each gear. So you would turn that, and then this would be like, we could have potentially started up and it just went into some random gear. So don't know where to get this at the moment. I'm going to try to find it. I called one guy. He don't have it. A lot of people don't have parts for this. It's like you got to have your own fucking part station just to fucking do shit. The oil pump came out pretty good. I had to drill it deeper. I had to drill out the top threads and get the bottom threads. I used an ARP stud that I bought from Speed Shop, SK Speed. I will send you that video probably. I really didn't detail it too much, but it's interesting. Everything can go wrong, goes wrong, and it is what it is. Okay, so when you pull off the torque converter, and this is original torque converter, that's the original number, so it's original. It is pretty clean, this transmission, all things considered, but I didn't realize that it was just sitting here. It did fall out. This is the other broken piece. In the video, I showed you the other piece. I think I left it in my car. But that goes, right here on this valve here. That little hole, and it is a Z shape, and it goes into this hole over here. The thing is, it's not meant to come out. So it's like the way you feed it in, either the valve body's got to come off, or you got to try to unbolt that nut down there, which I'm not so sure I can do that without this out of the way. That being said, here is the thing called the stator. Okay, now I'm going to try to see those teeth. See, they're all gone. This one is good. Where's my finger? Right here.
this one is good. And then you keep going. That one's half gone, then less. And then as you go around, you'll find that there's 4 that are good. And every one of these trainees has this issue, you know. Okay, now this is the same transmission. You can tell that the converter's painted. It's not the original part number, but when you look at this guy. It's black, and that is a hardened stator. Okay? That is a hardened stator. And that's why it's literally flawless. That's all they had to do, you know? So that's, and this bag of parts that I had bought today, okay? It's getting tight in here, it's a mess. But just this is the one guy who charged me for that Z-Link, charged me $20. This is the piece that's broken. This is the new one. And then all these parts here, which I started kind of going crazy because I was like, I want to do it right, but like, you know, $286, you know, I mean, now this is me losing $300 basically, you know, obviously. This is the stator. This is the stator. This is why this is not, it's not just easy to replace it. You know, you can see the black hardness. But this requires, you know, serious intervention with the transmission, and if I touch it, am I going to fuck something else up? And that's it, or I'm going to find something that's fucked up, because it just never ends, you know, as you probably would have guessed, you know. But ultimately, that is my biggest problem that I see with everything. And, you know, I already replaced the front and rear seals. I was just going to go boom, boom, boom. And I go, oh, fuck, yes. That fucking thing, you know. Like I said, it's like a crisscross. There's one tooth every 90 degrees. And now that I pulled that out, if I put it back in a different place, it almost is certain to not... I didn't match it up to the exact gear that it's in, so, like, something else could rip out the other ones, you know. I could smell it, you know. So that's that, and I think this is the right thing to do. Just put that one in, and it's been waiting to be used for so long. I just figured, what the hell? Let's just use it, and you know, I won't kill you. All right, so this is the new tranny, and I just wanted to show you the other thing. You see the seal? I had to get it out with the screwdriver. The new filters have it on there. That one had the transmission. Well, somebody had changed the transmission fluid on it at some point, and all they did was use 2 O-rings inside there. I already threw out the filter, but I don't know if I had one of the O-rings laying around here still. But in any case, they didn't do that right. So if they don't do that right, there's always a chance that the transmission was starving of fluid and whatnot. So this was the way to go, I think, in the end. And I was saving this for me, but, you know, it's all good. And hopefully it's... everything works well with this transmission. The biggest thing is the governor. Because your gears are so steep on your car, you know, the governor is better suited to be one from like a Grand National or a Cutlass 442 of the similar years. And unfortunately, those things are worth their weight in gold. So I have a feeling that if we wanted to shift better, that's the thing we got to kind of mess with, and it's going to be hard to get that kind of stuff, you know. So that's that. But you'll get used to it. You could hold a gear. You could probably, you know, do whatever. You're not racing it anyway, so I don't see it being a big problem. Anyway, so that's what I wanted to show you.